Hello, today we're going to be talking about a fun topic in commissions, how affiliates and how auctioneers get paid. So we're going to dive into some best practices, some options for you, and really get you to start thinking about, how are you going to charge for your services. So to get us started off, in any commission-based business, we charge what the seller's willing to pay. And obviously there are limits to that. We're not taking advantage of anyone, but in any commission-based business, say like real estate, there are certain percentages that are just kind of the norm. And I'll give you some of those today as well. But, every project is unique. So there's not a across the board, this is what you should charge. And actually, we as an entity, KBID, we can't tell you what to charge either. We can't put rates across the board because that would be noted as price fixing and not something that we can do. We can give you some options and some ranges that we've seen before, but it is ultimately up to you to determine what you can charge your seller. And that's done on a per project basis. And we'll give you some tools as to how you can figure out what you should be charging. The big question here is, when do auctioneers get paid? And, traditionally you would think that's at the end of the auction. That's after you've paid your seller and what's left over is the commission. Well, the reality is auctioneers make their money when they sign the contract with the seller. That is where you're negotiating your fee. So don't take that lightly. That is the most important part of your process, is making sure that you're covered in what you need to earn doing this job. So while we actually get the funds after the auction is closed, after we've paid our sellers, we actually get paid during the signing of the contract. So very important distinction there to be thinking about as you start putting together your business plans and how you're going to talk with sellers. So there's some basic types of commission structures out there that we'll go through. First and foremost, the easiest one, a flat percentage. You might just be at a 10% commission rate. You'll see that all the time. It's typically pretty easy. If you have an auction house where you're just taking in consignments over and over again, that might be the easiest way for you to get that set up. It's just a flat percentage. Occasionally we'll see a flat fee. Some bankers and lawyers will prefer to have a flat fee rather than an unknown commission rate. So you'll see that not very often, but sometimes you will. What we used to do when we were doing auctions at KBID is we would do a flat percentage and a setup fee. So what we would try to do is cover our labor cost for setting up that auction in our setup fee. So, instead of maybe a 25% commission rate, we charged a 20% commission rate, but an $850 setup fee. And our goal was to cover our expenses of setting up that auction. So if we had 2 staff out there for 4 days, that adds up. So we try to cover that with our setup fee. And especially when you're talking with businesses and business owners, they understand that there are costs associated to labor and vehicles and insurance and all this other stuff. So that may be more palatable to some of your sellers, is to have an additional fee along with a flat percentage. Another common one is a percentage split based on the sale price. So anything that sells up to $1,000, you can charge 25%. Over $1,000, you charge 15%. Over $10,000, you drop that down to 10. So that's all based off of the sold price or the sale price of each item. And so that takes out a lot of the negotiation with the seller on each item. You can just show them, here are our rates. It's a good one to start with because it is easier for you and it makes sure that it covers you on the lower dollar items. And it makes it more incentivized for your seller to sell the higher dollar items because that commission rate drops down to, maybe 15 or 10%. One thing you're going to want to look at potentially is discount for help in organization, especially if you're on site with a seller. And the reason that that's important is no one knows their stuff better than the client. They know where everything is, hopefully, or their staff do. So use that knowledge to your benefit, because otherwise you're going to be spending a lot more time setting up an auction than you necessarily need to. So look for that, and you can discount. You can present 2 different quotes. If I need to come in here and organize everything, I can do it for 25%. If your staff will get everything off these pallet racks and onto these tables, I can do it for 18%. So that just may have saved you 2-3 days of labor. You're still going to make decent money on the auction, but you can spend 2-3 days maybe going after another auction after this one, or spending your time in the office doing paperwork. So that is very common to, use your seller. Sometimes they don't want anything to do with it, so you kind of know the situation, but it can be very beneficial to affiliates for that. To give you some examples, just, very basic examples of what someone might charge. An estate auction with $20,000 in assets, you could be in 25 to 35% commission, depending on the labor that you might have. Business liquidation with $50,000 in assets, that rate could be in the 15 to 25% range. An equipment auction, the higher the value of the equipment, the lower that your commission rate is going to be, just to be competitive. And again, we do cap our buyer's premium at $1,000. So if you're selling a $50,000 piece, that buyer's only paying $1,000 on the buyer end. Still at 5%, you're making $2,500 selling that item. So, that was our goal, to be able to be competitive in those ranges. So affiliates can sell those higher ticket items and be competitive and make money while they're doing it. Lastly, vehicle auctions, that could be 10, 15, possibly 20%. If you're working with a dealer over and over again, they're bringing you inventory over and over, they might want to negotiate a flat fee. Maybe you're charging a $200, $250 fee to sell vehicles. We see it kind of all over the place. So there's not really a great answer to what do I need to charge for each auction. These are just some general ranges that we've seen over time. And I know a lot of people especially that are new to the business, knowing what to charge is a big question mark. So hopefully that these ranges will help answer some of those questions. So when you're setting your commission structures, the important part is do your homework. Look around. Maybe there's a local live auctioneer competition in your area. Many of those will have rates posted, and knowing that is important. And I'm not saying to go in and undercut anyone, but to know what people are charging is important. Even other online auction venues, what are they charging for buyer's premium? What are they charging for seller's commission? It's important to know that, because you might come up against bidding against another platform, another auction company that will try to use different things against you. So knowing what other people charge is important. It's very important as well for you to know what your expenses are. You're not just trying to make money on the one auction. You have other expenses, you're not just trying to cover your expenses from that one auction. Just because you have 30 hours in labor and $100 in gas, what are your fixed expenses? What is your cell phone cost? What is your insurance cost on a monthly basis? Do you have rent to cover? Do you have other expenses that you need to cover? Internet, printing, paper, different supplies that you need to purchase. These are all things that add up, and you need to cover this on each auction that you do. I would recommend getting a known fixed expenses that you need to cover on every auction that you do, and just build that into your process, because those expenses, if you don't watch them, they will add up over time, and they'll eat into your earnings. They'll eat into your income and your commissions. Secondly, value your time. What is your time worth? If we're not looking back at the end of each auction, at least every month or so, to see where we ended up, it's very easy to be busy in this business and not necessarily be making money. You could have $20,000 in the bank over the last 3 months, but how much of that is going out to the next seller? There's money coming in and going out of our bank accounts. If we're not seeing where we're profitable, if we're not doing the accounting, doing the back end, and maybe that's not your specialty, but have someone in place to be looking at those numbers, to know which auctions are profitable, which ones are not, and which ones you need to be going after in the future. Because you don't want to just be waiting water doing a $5,000 auction where you made $13 an hour. If that's the case, you might have some of those auctions, but that's probably not your goal. So looking at the numbers really will open your eyes to what auctions are working well for you and which auctions you might want to avoid in the future. Now, in any business, experts charge expert rates. It's not a bad thing to make money. We see affiliates and auctioneers make $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 on some of the large projects that they do. This is a service that we provide, and don't discount it. And that's why you're going to want to, be your brand, do all those things we talked about in the marketing. to make sure that you look the part as well of what you're trying to do for the seller. We've created, and I'm going to pull this over here, an auction valuation estimation worksheet that helps you in the process, because in order to charge a seller, you need to know what the approximate value is of the items that you're selling and how much time it's going to take you to do the auction. Those are the two basic things that we need to know. This worksheet is just, it's very basic, and if you don't necessarily use it, that's fine, but it's the concepts of the worksheet that are really going to carry you from just doing auctions on a whim to actually knowing what your numbers are. So as you can see on this first page, it gets into our assets that we're selling. So I would go through and I'd put, you know, my 5 featured items, maybe the higher ticket items. And the purpose of this worksheet is also twofold. It helps you in your valuation estimates, because if you're not putting numbers to items and seeing how close you were after the auction, you know, that's a skill you need to be working on constantly, because unless you know a range of what items are going to sell for, it's going to be hard to know what you need to quote your sellers. So this sheet will help you estimate, you know, what your prices would be on those 5 featured items and maybe those remaining assets. So you might have a $20,000 price estimate here. What you're going to want to do is go back. You know, what is the realized prices on these items? How close was I? Was I really far off? Did I overestimate? Did I underestimate? And then secondly, you want to estimate your labor as well. How much time is this going to take me to set it up? How many hours do I have in inspection, removal? All the miscellaneous time, shipping time, drive time, all those things add up. Are there other expenses as well? So estimating those hours and then actually going back, tracking and putting in the actual hours really starts to hone in on your ability to make these estimates that are so important in what we do. The second page of this worksheet just puts those numbers into a formula. You know, how much money are you left over with? So it starts with our labor, any additional expenses, you know, those fixed costs that we talked about a little bit earlier, and gives you a total there, and then your commission rate as well. So you can throw in your, you know, your estimate of what you think the auction will do, what your potential commission rate needs to be, and what your commission total is. You take those two numbers, the green and the red, the commission total minus your total expenses, and that's your net profit. That's what you're looking for. That's the number that you're hoping to grow. So this is available in the knowledge base. I'll throw a link up in the video. It's called the Auction Valuation Estimation Worksheet. If you're more into the Excel style, we have that available as well. You can dump these numbers in on a per auction basis. I think I have an example here, and this is in the knowledge base as well. You throw in the numbers and it will tell you, you know, what your total profit potentially could be on a specific project. So if you're more into the Excel side of things, that's great. You can create your own. This is just one template that we've made that should help you out as you're looking to quote for different projects. So as an example here, I have a real world auction that happened recently. It was a big building. I want to say 20,000 square feet, could have been more, but just hundreds of items that needed to be sold. So how much labor are we talking here for a project this size? Everything from the pallet racking to everything on the racking. There was offices that needed to be sold. This was 2 stories. There was a mezzanine that had a bunch of stuff on it as well. So as you look at these pictures, just try to estimate, you know, how long is this going to take me? And you can, I can sense the nervousness on new affiliates that would look at a project like this, just not knowing whatsoever how much labor and time this would take me to do. How could I even charge this? So I want to give you some references into how long this auction actually took the affiliate. So it turned out to be a 700 lot auction. It was a complete business liquidation, estimated about 50 hours for setup, 15 hours for inspection, and look at that, 60 hours for removal. And that wasn't just one person. They had 2 or 3 extra crew on there. But you can see that removal of all those items, that really adds up. So you're looking at 125 total man hours at you know, $20 an hour for hired help. That's $2,500 just in labor right there. So what do we need to be charging on an auction like that? Say it was a $50,000 auction, just to make the numbers easy. At 20%, 10 grand minus $2,500 leaves us with $7,500 for our net profit. We got to deduct our fixed expenses in there. But just to give you a reference, that's how many hours that one project would take. And I would encourage you to reach out to us at corporate, reach out to other affiliates as well. If you walk into a situation like that where you're just overwhelmed, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into, it's probably not the best situation for you right now. It may be in a year, but right now you might not have the experience to be able to take that on. So now might be a time to maybe partner up with another affiliate, work with them on the process, have them show you what they do, split commission with them, or just refer it off if it's not something that you're able to handle right now. Because the last thing you want to do for your client is get in over your head and not be able to handle the project for them. So at the end of the day, with when we're talking with sellers, what we're doing is our formula for success is we want to under promise and over deliver. You're going to have sellers that want to know what you think the auction is going to do. What range, what price range is this stuff going to sell for? And if you're giving out those numbers, always under promise and over deliver. Because if I tell a seller, well, I think this auction is going to do 25,000, and we bring them a check for 35,000, now I'm a hero. If I say 35 and we end up at 25, now I'm a villain. So be very careful with what you're promising. We can't guarantee numbers. We can give them ranges of previous items that have sold. But the basic formula for success here is under promise and over deliver. Show what closed auctions we have, show other projects. Let us know if you need comps. We can help you find some of those as well. But that'll leave you in a much better place as you move forward. So that is just our presentation here on commission rates and quoting your sellers. There's a lot to learn. It's hard to jam pack this into a quick video, but I hope it was helpful. Again, let us know if you have any questions on this.